Okay, so welcome to The Force Always. Yes, this is the Deadpool and Wolverine review. Okay, that's Deadpool 3 technically, or the Deadpool and Wolverine movie review. This is, let me start off with, look, I'll give this a 6 out of 10. You know, at least we got something in the snack bar here in Australia. You know, there was no way we're going to get the glorious popcorn bucket that America is getting, especially with the Wolverine version created apparently by Deadpool. That is an absolute awesome popcorn bucket, but we just don't get it here in Australia. Anyway, that was a bit of a disappointment, but you know, I got a bit of Kool-Aid, Deadpool style. A bit later on in the show, I'm going to also touch on the Acolyte episode 8, which is the finale to season 1 as we know it at the moment. But let's get into Deadpool and Wolverine, the movie. It's just come out here in Melbourne, Australia. Now, it's going to be a little bit spoilerish. I'm not going to give things away. Straight off the bat, this is an 8.5 out of 10. This movie is an 8.5 out of 10. It's great. It's a great movie. If you want intense violence, graphic violence, graphic upon graphic violence in a very animated way, this is the movie. There's a bit of a stop and start to it, the whole film. It's good, but it gets a little bit slow in parts, fast action in parts. The heart of this film, the message is not done superbly, but it's still done with a lot of heart. What I'll say though is if you get to the credit part of this film, during the credits, not after the credits, obviously there's going to be an after credit scene, there's actually quite a bit of reflection in things that Marvel have done, and that was more sort of emotionally put together great. But I think the whole film itself, the heart was just where it lost in this. It was just not hitting the notes intensely. I thought, you know, there was way too many F-bombs. What I mean by the F swear word, it's a bit blatant. The way it was delivered was a bit blatant. It was still funny, blatant. A highlight to this film that sort of works with film is the cameos and the surprises throughout the film. You just won't believe where they go with cameos and what they do. It's like really creative. I think another sort of area that it is a little, compared to the first and maybe second, it's a little bit Hollywood polished, this film. Still, it's a great film. It's a great film. Sit back and relax, because this is going to be a action-packed in areas type of film. It's just really, there's lots of things that you'll laugh at. The thing that you do need though with this film, and I'm not a Marvel advocate. Look, I'm not the big sort of like Star Wars fan. I'm a Star Wars fan, but even with Star Wars, I don't know a little bit of detail. But with Marvel and the comics, you do need to know a fair bit of Marvel stuff going into this film. You can watch this film with a bit of understanding of the story, but there's lots of pieces of information that is from other stories. Just you do need to know a fair bit in that way. The story itself is watchable as a standalone, but it does still need a little background thought. It's not a complete standalone film. Like the Joker is a film that you don't need to know much about anything before, after, during, whatever. It's just a standalone film. It's great. That's the Joker, not Joker 2, Joker. But I think this film is really well done in its creativity. And the music soundtrack, as dorky, as crazy as it is, it absolutely works. Seriously, it's a great combination of music that gives comedic and heart relief into the film, and it's just great. Anyway, so I'm giving Deadpool and Wolverine an 8.5 out of 10. Definitely a multiple viewing film, but more for the fact of the detail of this film. I wouldn't say it's a type of story that I love immediately and go, man, I want to watch that and watch that because of the great sensation of a story. It's a very good story, but it's just not the greatest story. If I was to pick any of the Deadpools, I will have to say, obviously, Deadpool 1 is the best. I hate saying the original is always the best, but it is the better story. Anyway, so as I said at the start of the show, I'm going to touch on episode 8 for The Acolyte, which is a Star Wars live action series on Disney Plus. It sort of finished last week. I didn't do a review as I was a bit late to the mark. Plus, I thought, well, I'll combine this particular episode with the Deadpool and Wolverine review. So the last episode of The Acolyte, episode 8, for me, got a 7 out of 10. There's really just a build up of an ending of a story. And the 2 points, obviously, we've got a possible Darth Plagueis and a possible Yoda. Now, when I say possible, the Darth Plagueis is pretty much confirmed, but still not 100%. And the Yoda one, the reason why I'm saying possible is because if you look at Yoda in the actual episode, he looks from the, obviously, back of the head, the same age as he was in Empire Strikes Back. Now, that's more than 100 years before that episode where the Acolyte sits. So I'm thinking it's a Yoda species, not Yoda himself. But it could be because technically he's alive. It doesn't matter. It was great to see that sort of little touching moment. It was great to see Darth Plagueis. I would have loved to see something else with this Darth Plagueis thing. It's Darth Plagueis, just so that you know, is Emperor Palpatine's master, and before Emperor Palpatine, before he was Emperor, Palpatine killed his master, but that's another story in itself. It was good to sort of see that. It was actually visually done really well, very dark, very mysterious, and you could think what you want, what his look was conveying, but it was, he was there. So the conclusion to the series, look, the whole series in itself, I think was good. It wasn't great. It wasn't not satisfactory. A lot of people did not like this series, and in fact mocked a lot of the timeline, the characters, and I thought it was good. Like I just think there's always with Star Wars good and bad in everything, and I thought it was just enjoyable. But this last one really was a 7 out of 10. I think I said 7. So if I didn't, I said it's a 7 out of 10. Whether they get a season 2 is in question. Star Wars is very rich in money, and so I'm sure they could afford to do another season. But the reception definitely was very low, and the ratings slipped and slipped and slipped. But, I would like to see season 2. Maybe not the story of Darth Plagueis. I think that should be sort of kept, in a story in itself, whether it's a series or whether it's a movie. That would be great. Touch on Darth Plagueis in the next series if there's a season 2, but I just hold back if I can. Anyway, so that's the Acolyte review as well. Anyway, please leave a comment, like at the end of this video. I will be back soon enough. It's sort of a weekly show, this thing, but it's, sometimes not weekly. Anyway, I will keep here, keep rocking the Force always. And until next time, my friends, keep rocking.